Hello. I think we're live. I'm just going to make sure on YouTube. If I could find, there's the YouTube window. So let's just make sure.
We're live.
It's saying we're live. Everything is working. At least appears to be working. Yeah, it looks good. Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Creation Myths. We are here. Normally, what we would be doing now is I would introduce the guests and whatever creationist pseudoscience topic we were talking about tonight. But we're not going to do that tonight. Tonight, we are just hanging out because I hit 1,000 subs last week before at some point, because I did a guest appearance on Pelagia's channel, and then that's how you get more subs, is you do a guest appearance on a channel that is 100 times bigger than you. That is the secret sauce.
You're almost a 2K.
I'm almost up. Yeah, and I started the morning before his video dropped. I was at like 650. So I've gotten like 1,100 out of that, which, like, thank you, Paul.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do tonight is super fun. If you haven't already clicked the link, hit the link that's down in the description. It is a satirical piece called Peer Fortress. It is a Team Fortress take on the peer review process and the different types of peer reviewers. And all of us here, we're not peer reviewers, but we're pseudoscience debunkers to one degree or another in various media. And
we'll still check your work.
So we'll check your work. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through and play the tag yourself game in the different styles of peer reviewing pseudoscience. Before we do that, let's go around the horn and just kind of introduce yourselves. So Walker, you are next to me. So who are you?
Oh, hello. I'm Walker. I have another small YouTube channel, Just a Walking Fish. I recently hit 420 subscribers. That's a cause for celebration as well.
Yes, it is.
Let's go.
Just noticed a typo in my name on screen. Anyone know how to change that? I get the C isn't. Oh man, that's gonna
be keep them back out of the studio, or maybe maybe settings.
Yeah,
you
back out.
You should be able to click the three dots on you and edit name. Yeah.
But yeah, so I also have a small YouTube channel. I'm assuming most people who follow this circle close enough to know who everyone else is probably has seen me one way or another.
Fair chance.
If you're not already subscribed to Walker's channel, you should do that. It's Just a Walking Fish. He just put out a fantastic video about human and Neanderthal evolution and the interrelatedness of all the recent hominin groups. It's really, really well done, really detailed. Totally should have been an A.
Oh yeah, I haven't talked about the story behind it. So I did that for an assignment, and I got an 82 on the assignment for submitting that video.
Robbery.
It was so dumb.
Highway robbery.
I want to see that. I want to see that.
Unacceptable.
No, I can tell you exactly what I got counted off for. It was.
Do you want us to call your professor? I can pretend to be your mom.
They counted off for not identifying my audience or whatever, even though I had a whole paragraph in it. But I don't really care. I liked the video. I finished with an A, so it's whatever. I really don't care.
Done. Dapper, who are you and what are you doing here?
So I am now having audio problems, everybody. So give me a second. You should skip me until I try to figure that one out.
All right. Maddie, who are you and what are you doing?
Hi, team. I am Maddie. You can find me on the internet at Science Side Up. I talk about science stuff. It's very fun.
What's your specialty? What's your...
I usually focus more on the physical sciences. So I am getting my PhD in meteorology. So we've been doing a lot of climate stuff recently. I've also done stuff on what are the different types of radiation and why Bruce Banner would have died and not become the Hulk. We're going to jump into some weather 101 stuff over the summer. So how to radar and read SKU-T diagrams. So some very good understanding the weather tools. But I also like to talk about space and stuff. I have a weird but geophysics broadly is what I talk about. Also, I would like to postulate that Dapper is in fact not Dapper Dinosaur and must be an imposter because there is not a dinosaur wearing a top hat in that corner right now. So I am sus of our friend.
I'm highly suspicious as well. He's probably using percussive movements again on the old computer.
I would never slam on any part of my computer or attach peripherals like an angry chimpanzee just because, and then find out that it had fixed a problem that had been persisting for, at the time, about 20 hours.
Yeah, I was picturing the full-on Donkey Kong ground pound, right? Like he takes just whacking it like that, just for
downbeat.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I didn't do earlier this afternoon.
So what I'm gonna do, by the way, is anyone here, I'll put the channels in the description at some point, probably tomorrow. So you should all subscribe to Maddie if you are not already. There's really cool physical science stuff there. I'm really digging it. Everybody should get in on that. So Erica, who are you?
Yeah, I do monkey. I do the monkey stuff. I'm Erica. I'm Gutsa Gibbon. I've been here before. I know most of the people I've seen in the chat. In fact, I think I know everyone who I've seen in the chat, which is superb and great to see. But I run a channel that's basically a lot of dunking on young Earth creationism, some primatology and ant stuff. I do some stuff on other general paleontology, and occasionally I get geologists on to talk about rocks, and it's a whole hodgepodge. It's great. We do love to see it, and I'm very excited to be here. I love this science team. I think we call ourselves the Science Friends, and that's both our hero and villain name.
Right, that's the evil organization name.
Yeah, it's the Science Friends when we're the good guys and the bad guys.
We really do need evil villain costumes.
Yeah, I know.
So I can do that. Can you see all my sewing stuff behind me?
Yes.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah.
I've got some great ideas in mind for our respective get-ups.
Nice.
All right, and all the way down there in the bottom right corner, Dakota. Who are you?
Dakota, Deadly Dakota Raptor. I don't have a YouTube, but I've known Dan for a couple of years now. Back at going to Just in Text days.
Back on Reddit, and it's been, and look, it's more than a few at this point. It's like 4 or 5 at this point. The Reddit stuff, and everybody should know. That's where I met Erica too. Is actually we go way back on the Reddit debate evolution, going back years before I was on YouTube. Before I even knew people from the subreddit had YouTube channels. Who knew?
And Guy in the Chair is in the chat. He's one of your mods.
And
Covert Goldfish.
And Covert Cuttlefish is here too.
And Covert, and Covert.
Also
We got the whole gang.
our debate evolution.
And I was on r/d as well for a while before I had this moniker.
And Mr. Wilford is also a friend of ours from debate. Look at that, we got the whole Reddit crew here. Really warms the heart.
When are we finally going to get Nomad in here for a chat?
Oh, I should invite him. I should invite him. I tried. I tried Paul Price. He wasn't interested.
Oh, and by the way,
incredible.
I'm Dapper Dino. I technically have a YouTube channel, but basically right now I'm just a living incarnation of technical problems.
If everyone would recognize Dapper if he had the top hat and the stubby arms, but
Yeah.
So this is a very important question. What is it called when you have? Because if you're just wearing a shirt but no pants, that's Donald ducking it. What is it called if you're just wearing a tie and no other clothes?
Well,
Wait, is that Porky Pigging it? No, or Porky Pig, does he have a shirt?
Oh,
might be Porky Pig.
That could be.
He does a hat, and does he wear a tie? It might be Porky Pig.
He has this blue jacket thing and a tie.
Yeah, he's got kind of a vest.
Yeah, so he's got the.
Suggest Donkey Kong.
I think Donkey Kong is the answer.
Do you have to? Does Donkey Kong wear just the cuffs?
No, DK wears the tie, but that's it. He doesn't wear a hat.
Okay, so Donkey Konging it.
Yeah, I think Donkey Kong is the way to go there.
Donkey Kong.
Yeah, probably.
You're really on DK today, Dapper.
DK, there we go.
DK.
Yeah, that's what
I always wanted to be Donkey Kong in
Smash.
Nope. The racing one?
Mario Kart?
Mario Kart 64. There we go. I was always Donkey Kong.
The best Mario Kart.
Oh yeah.
That's Mario Kart.
My main in Smash. I'm always just about charge punching and then walking up the. beating the crap of them off the screen. That's my strat.
I do actually know how to throw a punch. It's not like this.
No, it's not.
This is how I do it, though. I do a little knuckle slap like that.
Yeah,
No,
making
you gotta
sure that
do up here.
Yeah,
It's
making
a
sure your
very
wrists are
powerful move.
making sure your wrists are limp and bent is always the safest way to engage in combat.
Yeah, my goal is to break both my radius and my ultima every time.
Yeah.
Well, then you've got a great strategy. Let me tell you.
So we are gathered here tonight to talk about how we do our dunking. How do we dunk? So I have let me put this on screen. So if you're watching, if you haven't read this before, click the link that's down in the description. That's what I'm going to be showing. I just clipped screenshots out of this thing that I'm going to share here. It's the different approaches to peer review, but we're going to apply this to dunking on mostly young Earth creationism, but ID and other forms of pseudoscience if you feel like it. So we have, and I'm just going to go through these real fast, and then we can kind of do more detail. We could talk about who does what. We could do whatever. There's no plan. Yeah. So we've got the soldier just kind of chugging along. You've got, help if I was maybe on PowerPoint, able to change this. We've got the heavy weapons guy. This is your thing. And either it's going to go really well or really not well, depending on what you think. Then we have the demo man, just the most in-depth, there will be flattened earth at the end of this review. We have the sniper. Find that one error that invalidates the whole thing. Move on, next topic. You've got the medic. We can save this. If you do just a little bit more work, we can save this terrible idea. The engineer, let's just do more experiments. Doesn't really apply to this so much. The scout doesn't really apply here because it's just kind of not, really getting into stuff. The spy also doesn't really apply. And then finally the pyro, which is the longest, because this is the scorched earth. There's nothing correct about whatever it is that you're looking at, basically. Yeah. So
it's you need to go apologize to your mother.
How dare you publish that? How dare you write that paper?
The audacity.
The
sheer audacity.
Right. So anybody who wants to start, anybody have any thoughts on their preferred approach? I know what my preferred approach is. For people that know me, I think it's pretty obvious, but we'll save me for later.
Oh, okay. So you'll round us off then.
Yeah, sure. So what do we think? We'll go. I got Maddie at the bottom. Let's start at the bottom this time instead of the top.
We started at the bottom.
Who are you, Maddie? What are you doing?
So for me, when I'm dealing with young Earth creationism, when I'm dealing with young Earth creationism, I'm usually actually the soldier, because while I have a general background in geoscience or geology, right? Planetary science, right? My undergrad is in math and Earth, atmospheric, and planetary sciences, right? And then I ran off and did nuclear science, and all of my undergraduate research was in planetary science. And
Maddie,
now
I apologize for interrupting. Got a super chat from Vandalia 1998. Thank you. I appreciate you. I was recently able to monetize again thanks to that big sub boost. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
So cool.
My apologies. Go ahead.
Should I answer the question or?
You should.
Oh, what was the? Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so it's speaking of Mario Kart. At Dapper, what played would Yoshi be in? So Yoshi is a weird sort of thing. The biggest problem is that Yoshi has a weird chameleon tongue, but he looks kind of like a theropod. So Yoshi is unfortunately chimerical and not really very much like any particular dinosaur. But since he's going around eating a lot of plant material, and he does not seem like he's especially much like any of the herbivorous theropods, I'm going to have to go and say that he is a some kind of Neornithischian, probably some kind of or ornithopod, which is groups like iguanodons, hadrosaurs, and things like that, and also heterodontosaurs, things like that. So I'm going to go with that. Although there is actually a Yoshisaurus, or is it Yoshi? There's a dinosaur genus named after Yoshi.
Really?
But it doesn't look much like Yoshi, so whatever.
Can I take a crack at this answer? Because I know actually Yoshi has a specific name, right? Yoshi is T. Yoshisaur muchacupus, right?
Oh.
And I'm assuming the T stands for Tyrannosaur, so maybe it's like the little brother of Sue or something like that.
That is the tiniest and least dangerous Tyrannosaur. Mostly.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry to interrupt, Maddie. Take it away.
You're good. So what I was saying is that like when I deal with younger creationists like arguments, I'm usually addressing something that is fundamentally like seismology or astronomy or things that are not actually my field. And so I like this. They'll fall in line with the experts. So that's going to be my default, right? Unless there's a younger creationist argument about Arctic sea ice, then I am going to fall in line with the experts. But I have to say this, they won't have much passion. I do get quite a bit of passion when I talk about younger creationism stuff, or when I talk about any type of really bad pseudoscience, because they make me angry.
And then maybe you get into Demo Man territory, and then you just go, we're going to take an hour and talk about this one thing, and then it's just.
I did do that with what's his name? It was Snelling, when I realized he was lying about finding. He was being Look, he said that they found carbon-14
they did not.
in coal and in the other samples, and they did not. What they found was background beta radiation from potassium, argon decay, and then I made a whole video about it because I was really mad.
Yeah.
I do like Demo Man.
What's going on here? There we go. Thank you, Danny. I appreciate that. I see you. And also, I just want to shout out CTR0 over there, CTRO, another Debate Evolution alum that we're friends with. So, hey, good to see you.
We have the whole crew here, dude.
Look at this. Half the subreddit's here. Look at that.
Half the stuff is here. Amazing.
I love it.
I actually just checked to see if you had like posted something, but I didn't see that you had.
I actually didn't post anything about this. I have been posting more recently. I kind of dropped off, and now I've been like the last couple months I've been more active again. But yeah, I didn't post anything about this. But like,
oh my god, what a happy reunion!
I think Covert's right. I think the entire mod staff might be here at this point. Funny.
True.
I think the entire mod staff of Debate Evolution on Reddit is here. I think that's really funny. All right,
everybody except Thurnacy.
And Nemesis.
And the first guy, yeah. You're right. All right, so Erica, what's your style? Erica's been getting a lot of encouragement in the chat for like pyro, I think. But I want to hear what Erica thinks.
So the thing is, when we talked about this the first time, I try to make my attitude like a slightly sassy medic, right? Like my attitude to go about this is like, hey, this is an ass paper, or this is a garbo, steaming hot pile of garbage as far as the actual content, but you can fix it if you just address these several issues. You can still get out here and have a legitimate idea if you do that. However,
give me a model, as you're fond of saying.
Yeah, give me a model. Yeah, a model. God, even a mechanism. Just give me a singular testable hypothesis that is actually being proposed and then is planned to be tested out by the person, and I would be ever so satisfied. But I think that my methods, as far as like when I try to construct a video, is a little bit more pyro, because it tends to be like, okay, let's take this sentence by sentence and annihilate it into ash, leaving the only response to be like how I would prefer the response to be, which is you have to address A, B, C, D, E, F, and G instead of just reasserting the initial claim, which is all we ever get. we never get anything new, whether it's the pros or whether it's the amateurs. We never get anything new, never anything novel. Boy, it'd be nice if the creationists could mutate and evolve a little bit, would it not?
I feel like
It would be nice.
that I would like to see that happen. Erica, I feel like what we get from you is straight like medic, like as you said, like sassy medic, until you decide, oh, this is no longer good faith, and then just nuking from orbit is kind of the.
That's okay. That's fair, because I really react poorly when I feel that my time or the time of people I like has been wasted for the sake of like, big boy debate bro ideologies, which is what I feel happens a lot here on the internet. And then it's kind of like my catchphrase as of late is, it's not about having an answer, it's about the illusion of having an answer, which seems to be pretty applicable no matter which one of these guys that you're having a conversation with.
Professional and amateur. Doesn't matter.
Exactly. And that's the part that kills me, because, and Dan knows this better than anybody else on this panel, because he put his money where his mouth is and got some of these pros to come on and have a chat on his channel. And lo and behold, what did we find? Some of these guys who are proposing that Linsky's experiment is a dumpster fire don't even know how the experiment worked, which is something that you're expected to be able to do at a fairly early level, is being able to read a paper and explain what they've done. But they'll cite the paper, they'll cite his work, but they won't be able to actually tell you what he did and what was found, which does not bode well.
It hurts.
I love that with Erica, for you, that with the medic, that you were both, I'm going to use some Marine references, you're both the corpsman, right? And then you can flip a switch and be like the Marine unit the corpsman is attached to when someone has been mean to their corpsman. Right? Like,
Yeah,
you don't mess with Doc.
That's a good point. Yeah, do not mess with Doc. You
don't mess with Doc. Yeah, so
that's what I go for. That's what I go for. Because God, I'm such a sucker in so many ways, because I'll encounter these people, be it in comment sections or videos or debates or email exchanges. The number of email exchanges that are like, oh, I am a good faith actor and would like to have a conversation about it. 60 emails later, we finally get, okay, I agree what you're saying is correct, but have you considered carbon 14 and coal? And then it's just like, okay, blocked. It's just, I am no longer interested in, actually it's more like a strongly worded email and then blocked. But God, it's just, there's nothing I hate more than my time being wasted, because I take great, and I know everyone on this panel feels the same way. It's like we take great pride in our ability to talk about our area with a decent amount of confidence, and to do so in a way that hopefully is going to get across to the listener that, at least some information, right? Like you can get a decent grasp of it. And that's why we, consult each other all the time when we're looking at areas we don't know about. So to have someone like take your hours upon hours of research in an area you don't know very well and then just essentially throw it into oncoming traffic, it doesn't feel very good. And then we all get a little mean. So.
I start out a little mean though.
Yeah, Dapper. How do you go about this? Oh, actually, what do we got? We got Dakota's next.
Yeah, we got to get Dakota.
So Dakota, what's your and we should note for everybody that Dakota is operating in a written medium rather than a video format. So Dakota is one of the mods and also one of the all-time all-stars over on the Debate Evolution subreddit.
That is true.
We have it's so funny because over on the subreddit, which I should note, CTRO noted that we were talking as though it doesn't exist anymore. It's more active than it's ever been. Actually, It's extremely vibrant right now. It's when you've been there for many years, communities shift and it gets a different feel. But it's super great right now. We've always kind of joked about. Oh, go ahead.
No. I want to add to this because I check in with the Debate Evolution subreddit, even though I don't post as much as I used to, actually at all, pretty much, because I'm invested in the YouTube channel. But I really love it because someone will ask a question, so a totally, as far as we can tell, good faith, genuine question of, I don't understand XYZ. And then the comment is just, here's 600 links where you can see where this question has been asked before. Consult their written sources on the exact question you're asking. thank you for visiting the subreddit. Have a nice day.
Heaven help the poor naive soul who stumbles upon genetic entropy and is like, hey, I just heard about this thing. Anyone got information? Here's 40 links for you. There's a comment I had from a couple years ago where I was like, here's the 20 threads we've done on this. I'm just linking this comment forever now. And that's anytime it comes up, I'm just like, here are the arguments, address them or don't. All the answers are in there. Goodbye.
You can look up genetic entropy debunked on Google and like Dan's threads pop up. Like it's really
yeah. Somebody actually from the creation subreddit said that to me. I'll say recently, within the last couple of months, probably. They said, yeah, it's really frustrating because you've written about this so much, meaning me, that anytime someone brings it up, it's all framed in the way you say it about like error catastrophe that Sanford's arguments can't even get their foot in the door. And I'm just like, mission accomplished.
Well, God, I mean, the thing is that to me, that's on Sanford because you can just make better arguments.
Or he could do something other than write a book and not do anything for however long it's been. He could like engage with the critics. I mean, I got a lot of problems with Michael Behe, but Michael Behe is not afraid to have like a 12-part blog fight with somebody over his stuff.
He's revised the book several times. That's something.
And Behe is not this is a huge, enormous like stipulation. Behe is not a young Earth creationist, which is a completely different breed from the OEC, ID, or TE folks that we get coming in around here who are, for the most part based in Epic. So, right. I'm going to grab another drink. Continue.
Dakota, what do you do?
I'm probably going to be a soldier because as an engineering background, I don't have the greatest specialty on most young Earth arguments, but as far as the general knowledge base, I can address it. Though I would like to point out that given how bad and how fundamentally flawed at every level, it's so easy to go from soldier to pyro with most young Earth creationist arguments because you don't have to try to force to being a pyro. They just naturally are that bad at every level. So, I did that more recently with like a couple times I've dug into Armitage's work.
Oh my God!
Just everything is wrong at every level, and you don't even have to work hard to burn everything.
Yeah. Once you learn the ins and outs of the argument, you can nail it. And it's kind of funny because you're operating largely on Reddit, where for years we've all been those of us on Reddit have been like, man, this is bad. Like the arguments that you get, they're bad. They are not good arguments. And then we come over to YouTube, and I was frankly astonished how good the Reddit creationists look in contrast to the YouTube create. I was shocked and appalled.
It's legitimately. I mean, and Dan and Dakota and Walker probably will remember. Like I had a period of about a year where I was, I'm on Debate Evolution every day. I'm answering all the questions. I'm like in there. Here's my notes. Here's my resources. And I gotta say, the transition to YouTube was a piece of cake because the arguments that are being proposed from the YouTube creationists, they lack the charm and originality of the ones from the Debate Evolution creationists, who at least try to put their own spin on things. I love you'll get the occasional like Walt Brown pops up on our creation, but for the most part, at least they put a little more thought into it. It's not just a literal consumption and then regurgitation of something seen on AIG or ICR, etc. Which is it's nice. Also, I resent the idea that Dakota claims that he's just a soldier. You go pyro very easily. I've seen you without the math. So
I think it's a rule that once you have math in your post, if you're writing something on Debate Evolution and you have math in your post, you're no longer in soldier territory. You're now in like, I actually know this, and I'm going to like we're not playing games in new territory.
That's a good marker to
I think,
note the
so,
difference.
Yeah, I think if you have, you've been promoted to there you are, pyro. You've been promoted to pyro, depending on how how angry you're feeling that day.
Exactly.
That's why I take
Dakota
breaks.
did that.
I take breaks, and then spurts of
Yeah,
very
you-
active pyroing.
Dakota
Deep
was
breath.
the one he did the math for me for the impact events, and he was like, this doesn't look good, you guys, for our boys here, for the young Earth creationists. You got a lot of energy coming out of that. And you did that so quickly. I was like, say, can anybody help with this? And Dakota's like, ka-chow, like puts the Microsoft Excel right in there, ready to go. Yeah, you go pyro pretty easily.
Yeah, but I just want to say that one of our friends and mods from Debate Evolution, CTRO, is in the chat saying, maybe I should make a channel on YouTube. Yeah, get in here.
Go for
Come
it,
join
man.
the science friends.
Yeah, dude,
We're
absolutely.
not evil.
This is a fun community, and we like
Join
to
the
hype each
team.
other up. We would absolutely. I can only speak for myself. I would be happy to help in any way that I can with that.
I also,
okay.
my favorite thing about the pyro, by the way, is the "you're writing is terrible" bullet point. Because I have to say, when I'm like over interacting with someone, I do just default to correcting their grammar.
Yeah, watch my video on Raw Matt and his take on synapsids and therapsids.
Oh, no.
And I ping him on every single spelling and grammar mistake, and they are ubiquitous.
Okay, that is a great segue, because Dapper, you are next. So I'm just gonna. I actually, in my mind, I actually had you up here as Demo Man. And
I definitely have a bit
is,
of Demo Man, yeah.
See, the reason is that last line:
Dapper Demo.
papers or pseudoscience that receive the Demo Man's gentle touch must be identified through dental records. And the degree of detail that you go into, it really does. It's that grinding it into dust characteristic of like, I'm just thinking of that time that Rawmat put up a paper accidentally on Google and left it open to editing. And then there was, by the end of that exercise, there was not a single sentence that was original in that document.
Oh my god.
Everything was either corrections or comments that were like, hey, you're dumb for all these reasons. And it wasn't just me, but oh my goodness, the entire thing was just gone.
There were 20 or 30 people that had edited that by the end of it. And literally the whole thing, it started off, black and white, just letters on a page,
the rainbow.
just words on a page, and it ended up as a beautiful rainbow of pseudoscience debunking, as each of the 24 commenters got a unique color and just edited the Jesus out of that thing.
I think that's one of the best decisions I ever made to share that around.
That's right. Walker found that. That's right.
Walker did. It was amazing.
Oh, and that was right around Christmas, wasn't it? That
was Christmas Eve.
What a
Christmas
day.
I think I tweeted the link too.
Yeah, I posted it to r/d.
God, can you imagine being in that frame of mind, though? Like, can you imagine just being raw mad in that situation? Our poor ex-breatharian, raw honey-eating friend.
And we should say anti-vaxxing quack, like...
Of course. Academic fraud, we can't forget that.
Just add all of them, yeah.
Man who thinks herbal, quote-unquote, medicine is going to cure your terminal cancer. Yeah.
Or just thinks like if you eat the correct herbs and stuff, you'll live forever. He had a video.
He thinks you can literally become immortal by taking the right herbs.
Yeah. No. What some of his earliest
but
content.
He also believes in genetic entropy.
I don't know if he cleaned out his content. Huh?
I don't.
He
also
believes in genetic entropy.
Look, if you eat the right herbs, it'll restore your DNA or something.
It'll fix the genetic entropy. That's
there you go.
I know if you go to some of his older videos, I don't know if he deleted them after he did like the whole name change and stuff, but if you go to his older videos, a lot of them are about like herbalism and preventing aging and all that kind of stuff.
As far as I know, he still has that website up. But I will say that I do tend to think of myself a bit like the demo man. Like, look, if I'm taking a look at your work,
your topic.
Right. If I take a look at your work, and it's not just me, like, reading like a scientific paper for fun or whatever. If I'm taking a look at this and I'm thinking this might be a video, I am looking at it because I already know, based on basically the title, that this is going to be some dumb stuff right now, and it needs someone to say it. And I am going to make sure that every single clause in your video or paper or whatever is gone over with a fine-tooth comb. And in some cases, if you just make a spelling mistake, I'm going to tell you about it. And by the end of it, there will not be a single word that I have not gone over and crushed into the ground if it's possible. Actually, I just finished a video. It's actually not premiering on my channel. It's going to be on Vice Rhino's channel because he's taking a little break. But I took a Matt Powell video that was about 4.5 minutes long. My response is about 24 minutes long. Matt did not get through a sentence without me telling him how dumb he is about something.
Matt Powell's a special egg. He is. He's a
I
very
mean, he's particularly dumb. But I mean,
person.
Look, in the video I'm responding to, he made the claim that mainstream science thinks that chicken legs are homologous with T-Rex arms.
Amazing.
Delicious in buffalo sauce?
Presumably. But
As a quick aside, I just, Leo in the side chat, I'm sure everyone here already saw it, but he asked if raw Matt really did consume raw honey. Raw Matt supposedly lived in the wild for like 9 months, just consuming nothing but raw honey that he acquired from live bee nests.
He claims to have done the John the Baptist diet, basically.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean,
Did he also eat locusts then?
I hope so.
You've gotta imagine, and like I bring this up every time because it makes me laugh so hard. But you gotta imagine your family, you're going on this cross country RV trip, you're wandering around this beautiful national park, you're just minding your own business, having a picnic, and out of the field, just a man clothed in nothing but honey emerges from the brush. He's just slathered in honey and grubs, and he's just, looking around like a wild creature, a Bigfoot maybe, if you will.
Yeah, maybe that's the explanation.
Maybe that's where it comes from.
That might be where it comes from.
And let us note that we're not extrapolating, well, a little bit with the Bigfoot thing, but this stuff on Raw Matt's website, this stuff is on there about like I did the honey thing and it's all
these are things he talks about.
There. This is things that he.
I wonder how many of those Florida Man articles were about Raw Matt.
All right, before we go down look, Raw Matt is a good target for a lot, but let's not too mean to one person. So Walker, what's your approach here?
I know we just said it, but I think I also kind of lean Demo Man, which is unfortunate because I think my when I played TF2, my mains were Pyro and Medic. But no, I think I haven't made too many video responses to Young Earth Creationists. Actually, funnily enough, most of my content out there nowadays, or most of my content out there has been about topics I think are interesting. But I think generally when I'm responding to Young Earth Creationists or just doing anything, I like to be as thorough as I physically can. If you've seen any of my source lists for any of my videos, they're usually 20 sources.
Yeah.
And then also usually if I'm responding to a Young Earth Creationist in text or something like that, I go line by line. I'll put quotation marks for what they said, put my response right under it, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. So I think probably Demo Man would be the most accurate. I don't make them cry, hopefully, so I wouldn't say go as far as to Pyro, but
I think the closest to making someone cry might have been Covert Cuttlefish coming in with a mutual friend of everyone here was dunking on Dr. Dan when Dan was not present, and our friend Covert popped in the chat to remind him that whilst this 1 a.m. stream was going on, 1 a.m. on a Tuesday, that Dan was in fact in bed with his wife in his nice house that he paid for with money from his legitimate job with his kids under the same roof, and they were all enjoying a pleasant life, unaware of this 1 a.m. stream. Which was probably the closest I've come to feeling bad secondhand for some reason.
I will say, in terms of wanting people to feel bad after I'm done with them, I am still proud of two accomplishments. One is that after my Kent Hovind debate, he didn't bother to put it in his debate playlist. He was just like, "No, we're gonna memory hole that one." That debate just didn't happen. Another one is that after I did a very thorough look at in his images dinosaur bird videos. He took that video down. It's gone.
That's a pretty good accomplishment.
Wow.
Yeah.
Snap
He was
for
like
feather in your
you,
cap.
man.
Yeah, now
That's
look.
good.
Now, don't get me wrong. Emery and I are on good terms, and he gave me the heads up. He was like, "Hey, man, I saw your video. I'm taking that one down." So, like,
Okay.
but it's not often that you get such a thorough takedown of a creationist video that the creationist is just like, I can't leave this up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's bad.
Yeah,
So-
well, I mean, he said that a dinosaur was probably a pterosaur or a bat. So it's, if you don't, maybe if you're not familiar with vertebrate paleontology, you don't realize how bad that is. But like, it's pretty bad. I mean, it's basically like you might as well mix up like a mammal and a virus. There's just no way to mix these two up if you know what you're talking about.
I mean, they're all vertebrates.
Yeah, but
A mammal and an archosaur specifically.
so it's hard to find groups that have more divergent anatomy within mammalia than dinosaurs, pterosaurs, and bats. There's just no way to confuse them. Like maybe if all you have is like, I don't know, like one like distal end of one phalange, then it's like, well, I don't know. Like, okay, fine. But otherwise, no. You can't mix these up. It's not possible. Unless you don't know what you're talking about. And then I also, even in areas where he was like, just kind of like, oh, this is just an example. I'm like, hey man, why don't you tell people what this example is? Like he flashes up some skeleton. He's like, this is a typical reptile skeleton. No, it's not. That's a gharial. They're extremely atypical, even among crocodilians, who are already atypical among reptilians. What is wrong with you?
So before we get to me, I want to take a moment because one of our mutual friends here, RJ Downard, could not make it. Specifically, we're talking tech issues,
RJ.
tech problems with StreamYard. RJ couldn't join us. He's doing Evolution Hour, I think, right now. And if you all are not subscribed to RJ Downard and don't watch Evolution Hour every Wednesday, you should be on that because this is a person who dots every I, crosses every T, never misses a beat or a reference. And that's why I pulled up Heavy Weapons Guy, because there is not a single creationist claim that I've heard that if RJ is present, he can go, oh yeah, that comes from this paper in 1965, and then this one in 1982, and then this one.
He's a source terminator. Like you say something, RJ will Terminator that shit down, hunting
he
it.
Will give you the
galaxy.
entire history of the argument, what they got wrong at each step, like
what they had for breakfast each day they wrote the papers.
Yeah, most things, like he knows, and he is not a biologist by training, but most creationist arguments he knows inside out. He is the heavy weapons guy, and he can just like no here boom, and like and that's the ball game. And so I was hoping RJ could make it, but he could not because I use StreamYard. He has tech problems with
just
StreamYard.
Can't StreamYard. I don't know what it is.
He just, for whatever reason, it's weird. It just doesn't work.
Covert goes, RJ is a machine. The man is a machine. 100% accurate.
He is a walking encyclopedia of the history of creationist claims and why they are wrong in like a time-stamped manner going back a century, right?
Yeah, if you read either of his books, it's ridiculous. It's all so many sources, and every single little tiny aspect of creationism is already there. Almost any time I look at any creationist source, if I go to like the index for either Evolution Slam Dunk or The Rocks Were There Volume 1, I'm going to find whatever claim is being talked about in there with all the sources as to where it came from. I basically use those books as reference material.
So the biggest, as a carry on to that, Dapper, one of the biggest insults I think that a creationist can appreciate, they are not in RJ's index, because if you haven't made it enough to be on RJ's radar, not a good creation.
You are small
and there are a couple as of late, the pros, like the ones who have their own websites, who have their own, organizations, who are not mentioned in The Rocks Were There Volume 1. And I don't know if they're planned on being in Volume 2, but I remember seeing that and I just, bless their heart. That really sucked.
Tough luck, All right. So We're up to me.
Who are you, Dan?
And I know what I am, but I want to hear what everyone else thinks, because I am a very specific thing.
I think you're the sniper.
Yeah, I was going to say sniper.
Sniper for sure.
I'm
Yeah,
a
you
sniper.
don't really suffer fools on that one at all.
I'm a sniper.
He reads till the first like Ron says. He's like, all right, next.
I will read a paper. I will read a creationist. I did this past week. There was a paper that came out on the so-called waiting time problem, and the authors, I forget the first author. The second author was Gunther Beckley, and the third author was Ann Gauger. So it's a Discovery Institute thing. And I control F'd for recombination, because if you're talking, the waiting time problem is this creationist trope of, well, if you need a set of mutations to get a new trait, right? Well, you have to get mutation number 1, and then mutation number 2, and then mutation number 3. How long does that take, given the probability of blah, 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 blah? Well, one of the big things with that is you have recombination, right? Where you get mutation number 1 over here, mutation number 2 over here, you have mating, recombination, and now 1 and 2 are together in the same lineage. That's how you get things fast. And I control F, recombination. After reading a quarter of this paper, there was one sentence in the discussion on recombination, and they said, we're modeling a haploid population with no recombination, which first is wrong, because bacteria and such still do recombination. It's not sexual reproduction. It's still recombination. It's just not tied to reproduction the way it is for sexual eukaryotes. So 1, that's wrong. 2, the sentence goes on, but even if we did, we don't think it's a significant factor in reducing the waiting time. Headshot, you're wrong. Moving on. We're done.
That's it. Yeah, next.
And you could do that for any creationist trope, right? Genetic entropy. You're assuming constant fitness effects across the landscape for all the mutations. You're assuming constant effects. That's wrong. It's context dependent. Next, irreducible complexity. We've watched those things evolve. Next, like goodbye. Like you could go top to bottom for all these claims, and you have very specific things that are wrong with each. I mean, another one of my favorites that some of you may recognize is the recent mitochondrial most recent common ancestor, right? From Jensen and everybody. And you're using per generation mutation rates, not long-term substitution rates. Your math is meaningless. Like, I don't need to argue over Ding or Ding to 2015 or Parsons 1997. I don't care. I don't need to argue over that, because you're starting your argument by using the wrong metric as a baseline, right? And that's headshot, done. Your argument is wrong. And we can move on and talk about something else. What's your favorite baseball team and how are they doing this year? Because the conversation about mitochondrial most recent common ancestry is over once you're using mutation rates. That's the end. Everything you do from there forward is wrong. That's what I do. Now, I will occasionally go pyro, where if I get a paper that is just wrong in every way. And the one instance I can think of that is the H1N1 paper with genetic entropy. Where
another classic, another debate evolution classic.
Just wrong from top to bottom.
Can I just say one of my favorite moments ever on debate evolution was somebody was saying something about genetic entropy, and somebody came in, not one of this crew, somebody else came in and said, do you have any examples of that? And it was Paul Price was the person they were talking to. And I said, he's going to say H1N1. Here's the paper and here's why it's wrong. And within 5 minutes, it was close time period, because I checked back a little bit later, and Paul Price had put, it's been observed in H1N1, blah, 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 blah. Dude, don't be come on, man.
God, I have so many fond memories of being in between classes at uni and checking in on debate evolution and seeing a question pop up and just being able to mentally chart exactly who's going to show up. It's going to be Paul Price with the H1N1, Paul Price showing up and spouting some nonsense about genetic entropy, Paul Price showing up and spouting Jensen, the greatest hits. And then Dan comes in he's perched, on the decent skyscraper, ready to go. Come on, Paul. Come on,
you're gonna
open the door, Paul.
Another throws the Girardi.
Yeah.
Another one like that. Another one like that you hear is if encode was right, then evolution is wrong. No, that's not what he was talking about. That's not what he meant.
Grar actually has an excellent online presentation from like 2018, I think, that he...
was it 2018 or 20... I think it was 2013. I think
no,
it might have been...
He has one of those too, but he did one after his 2017 paper, because he did it after his revisement of the 2017, after the comments came out, and he was like, okay, well, it's not actually a functional cap, but rather it's more of a likeliness. It's not a hard cap, I guess you should say. But he's got a really great PowerPoint at least I think he's got a great PowerPoint lurking around online where he's like, the classic quote mine, the classics, where he's like, this is just amazing. Anyone who quote mines this, you can this Grar's, I'm paraphrasing here, but he's basically like, you can instantly write them off because they did not watch the whole presentation. If that quote is what they took away from it.
There are a lot of quote mines like that. Like, there's some classic Stephen Jay Gould quote mines, and it's like, did you read the next sentence? No, you didn't. You found a meme.
Yeah,
that's one of Darwin's Eye, right?
Oh, the Darwin's Eye is a classic.
The Jerry Cohn one where he's like, discusses evolution as like evolution, like some problem with evolution.
Lower on the lowest rung of whatever.
Yes, that one. And you read the next sentence, and it's like, the science, others that the science don't like evolution because of that. But like, evolution psychology is so awful, and it's a big discussion about all the problems with emo-psych.
Oh, it's so bad.
Not what the paper was doing.
It's so bad. So fun. Before we leave Grauer, I have a fun thing about that. If encode is right, evolution is wrong thing. So he said that at a conference in Chicago in 2013. I was in the room for that talk. I was at that talk.
Oh, nice.
It was the best talk of the conference. It was so good. It was funny. Like, if you've watched any of his,
he's a cool guy. He's a cool guy.
His talk was funny. And like, I mean, there's examples like of his that I use, like the example of the difference between junk DNA and garbage DNA. Junk is the stuff that you put in a box in your basement and just stick it in a corner. It doesn't hurt you. It just sits there. But then if it starts doing things, like the box spills, then you can like trip over it when you're carrying laundry or something, right? Like I got that from him. I just shamelessly stole that from him. He came up with that.
Yeah.
Well,
and I also like the junk drawer where it's like, there's a bunch of stuff, you pretty much never use it, but that doesn't mean that it's completely useless. Every once in a while, you can go into the junk drawer and pull out, like that weird, like, whatever's in there, like that measuring tape you never use. But now you do kind of need it, which also kind of goes into the whole, like, junk DNA sometimes mutates, becomes functional in some way, and there you go. You get a new protein or a new regulatory system or something.
Or it could be useful. Yeah. So that's what I had planned to talk about for this. Just go through that delightful how you it's peer review is the original, but pseudoscience is how we do it. And I thought that was super fun. I wanted to go through that with everybody because it's just the different approaches that we have in here.
Yeah, I like that one a lot.
Yeah, and actually, Dan, I do appreciate the sniper because I feel like it's not the most common pseudoscience like debunking technique, but it's really effective because it makes the point that like, hey, dude, you didn't get it right from the word go. Like, your very first attempt at this was so flawed that everything else you're going to say doesn't merit comment. And go back and start over.
And it counters the bullshit asymmetry principle, which, if you're not familiar with that concept, it's the idea that, hey, I'm going to say 12 things that are wrong in my allotted time. And then it's like, okay, now I can address maybe 2 of them effectively, and the rest are just hanging out there. Well, if we go, here is the central problem with the idea you're proposing, you can say whatever you want, and I don't care, because if you don't address this one thing, then your idea is still wrong. And
and I think another thing that's really the sniper kind of the role that the sniper plays is it's the gatekeeper of being taken seriously, right? Like in the whole realm of conventional science, like you've got this whole air of wait, they're still creationists, they're still out and about, they're still doing their thing, they're still okay. Like if they want to, by all means, show me when they've got any math. But at the level of us, those of us who, to varying degrees are involved in academia, but who enjoy for the fun of it, because that's really what we all do this for. We do it for fun. Mess around with the creationists. It's almost like the arbiter of, all right, you want to hang out with the big boys in conventional science. Show me your math. Show me a single coherent concept that works in the grand scheme of things. You won't find one. And that's the sole reason, that's the only reason that these guys aren't being taken seriously. It's because they're not putting in any of the work and they don't have a single coherent model or mechanism. And it's not a conspiracy. It's like Nathaniel Jeanson is welcome to propose his work to any conventional journal, but he hasn't because Raw Matt tried and it did not go well for him. Lest we forget the PLOS submission.
That ended with Raw Matt committing academic fraud, which apparently Raw Matt doesn't know that academic fraud isn't the same thing as criminal fraud, and so his biggest defense was, this isn't illegal, and it's like, yeah, I know, no one thinks it was.
Nobody said it was illegal. Yeah. Going off what Erica said.
Kansas
go ahead, Maddie.
Right now. Sorry, I'm looking at radar in the background. If anyone's in Kansas tonight, especially Western Kansas, watch out. There's
maybe go to the basement.
We're not to go to the basement. There's not, okay. But I don't know if we'll get a tornado tonight, but I will be surprised if you don't get some bad hail. Anyway, sorry.
I think we're gonna
PSA.
Thank you, Maddie. So so one quick thing, and then we're gonna switch the panel around a little bit because we have David Neffen here, and I have not sprung for the paid version of StreamYard, so this is
what a cheapskate. You just got
this is actually hang on, because you can have 6. Can I? No, yeah, it's 6 people. It's not 6 guests. Yeah. So
5 plus the host.
Yeah, so I want to say one quick thing, and then we're going to bring David in to do the tag yourself for him. So the first thing was piggybacking off of what Erica just said with the door is open. That holds true not just for the yeks that are disputing all of modern science, but even Michael Behe could do this and has made a very deliberate choice not to. Michael Behe, legit biochemist, has plenty of published work in biochemistry. No one doubts his credentials and knowledge base, but when it comes to intelligent design and irreducible complexity, and then his later books, Darwin Devolves and Edge of Evolution, not in that order, Edge was first, then Devolves, and then you he could subject, and this came out in my conversation with Michael B, is you could do this if you wanted, but he doesn't. He publishes books. He writes blog posts. He gets roasted on other people's blog posts. He comes on my channel and I didn't get any clarity out of that conversation. I thought it was really interesting, but I didn't come away with a better understanding of how I can empirically evaluate his ideas. Right? It was
very frustrating for me.
It was frustrating and informative.
Isn't it so funny though that exact sentiment is exactly the same thing that Nathaniel Jeanson does, and that every single book published YouTube creationist does. And when you say, these are some really interesting ideas, why don't you, subject them to peer review? You get crickets, or you get, the Amazon books reach more people anyway. And
or peer review is jaded or whatever have you.
Oh yeah, peer review. It's a conspiracy.
It's
biased against.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Dan, thank you so much for having me on. I'm gonna jump out to make room for more people, but congrats on 1,000 subs and monetization. That's such a big deal. That's amazing.
Actually, I'm gonna do the same thing because I am still trying to get my computer back to its pre-reset stage. It's been a rough
I know the pain. As I just did a computer upgrade I'm on a
Yeah.
new system, and it was 2 days of getting everything reset to work the way it's rough. So,
right.
Dapper, thank you. I'm going to bring Walker back in, and then we have David here. So, David, we're going to get to you in just a second. I'm going to bring Walker back in. Dapper, thank you so much for coming. I appreciate your presence. And then let me see here. Also, just want to send the link just a second. So, while we wait, I think our friend Andrew is going to join us here. While we wait, for those of you who don't know, David Neff, you should subscribe to David Neff's channel. He is over in the chat. I'm guessing you can click on his name. He does sciencey stuff and has really fun conversations, very interesting conversations. So if you are watching this and for some reason are not subscribed to David Neff, you should go do that because you will not regret it. So David, tag yourself. Who are you when it comes to debunking bad science?
Hey, Dr. Dan, first off, congratulations on 1,000 subscribers. And thank you so much for inviting me on. I would probably consider myself a Terminator. I like going to the original source and ripping it to shreds, figuring out every single thing that's wrong. My favorite thing was when you and I did the joint presentation with Dr. Nathaniel Jensen, where I forced Jensen to admitting that his paper would be invalidated if Ding did not use the germline mutation. And then I went back to Ding and got him to pretty much say, yeah, this is a combination of probably both germline and somatic mutations, because our entire paper wasn't meant to do what Dr. Jensen wanted it to do.
Yeah, it's a different question.
What was that?
Love it.
Oh, I just said it was a different question. They weren't trying to answer like what's the mitochondrial, or not the mitochondrial replacement rate, the substitution rate. They were just trying to find like, wait, what? I haven't even read the paper, but yeah,
it's not worth it. It's a pedigree. It's a parent to offspring, one generation mutation rate study. It's irrelevant to the question.
Like, lest we even get into and Dan and I mentioned this the other day on this channel when we were going over the the Carter video, but like, lest we even touch on how next-gen sequencing impacts pretty much everything Jensen has ever said with regard to using pedigrees and not accounting for elements that are at play in phylogenetic rates. But also, like, his Parsons work when compared with other contemporaneous works of the time versus the mutation rates that differed between those two. Parsons is the only one that's got this wild out there number range that is from like 200 years ago to like 1,000,000 years ago or whatever. And then Jensen's like, see, 6,000 could be in there somewhere. It's absolutely incredible. Pretty amazing, as friend Jesse Lee Peterson would say.
It's just like the I'll be polite about this, the fortitude it takes to make an argument like that based on not just cherry picking that one study from 1997, from before the human genome was completed. And then if you go into the supplementals of the original 2015 Jensen blog post on this, and I will tell you, I have done this. I have gone into those supplementals, and to call them supplementals is
generous.
A little bit of a stretch because it's one Excel sheet that has like a couple of tables in it. It's a little bit of a stretch, but you can look at where he plots ranges. He doesn't plot, he has numbers, but he has ranges. And to get the number that he wants, the parameters are somewhat questionable. For instance, involving an average generation time of 15 years. And that's not a minimum, that's an average.
Yeah, we forget about that one, and you really do have to appreciate the moral gymnastics that are done in proposing that.
Well, and the anthropological gymnastics of like, I'm not an expert in that field, but I don't think there's anybody who puts 15 as the mean age of, and so again, that means that
it's your generation.
Average, you're having a bunch of kids before 15, right? In order to get 15 as the average. I don't think anyone proposes that is representative of human history.
Well, it also is kind of contradictory to like biblical genealogies because you go straight from having kids at like 100 to having kids at 15. That's like total flip-flop there.
Yeah, and the thing is too is it doesn't match with what we do find anthropologically speaking. Like even in countries and nations in the present and in the past that have relatively early like union times, like social union times for marriages, etc. Like they're not averaging a child at 15. The funny thing is like chimps aren't even at that level. Like chimps are waiting until they're like 23, 25 before they have their first child sometimes, depending.
Well, you know what it is now with the economy like it is, they have to wait until they're a little more established before they have their first kids now.
Okay. I'm very curious. I think I know everybody's answer. I think I do. But what is everyone's young Earth creationist argument? And by favorite, I mean most fun. Most fun to engage with.
I'll go last. So start. Who haven't we started with? I don't know. Neff, what's your favorite?
Oh boy, my favorite, I guess, was it's just a theory, because it just shows how utterly ignorant they actually are. Anyone who says that just
a theory.
You can show how little they actually understand about science.
That's a good one. Mine is clear distinctions between what's human and what's ape. I love that one because everyone who says that differs from everyone else.
Let me see if I can find that table. Hang on, because I have that table.
You got to put the table. Yeah, because God, I can monologue on this one for long enough. I mean, it's very funny to me because every single one of these people will sit up, puff their chest out and confidently assert, yes, we can say with certainty that you've got this group of fossil specimens that are indeed human and this group that are definitely ape. Of course, notwithstanding the idea that humans are, of course, already apes, but whatever. And so, you sit down and you say, okay, well, what are the criteria? What are the traits? And why does everyone disagree on where the line is? Because some people will put it at Homo neanderthalensis, and some people will put it at Australopithecus afarensis, even Ardipithecus ramidus, and you're like, that's very interesting. Where's the actual line? And it just kind of goes to show if we can get that chart. How
I'm looking for it. I have it somewhere.
Here,
I have it saved somewhere. I can't find it.
According
to I'll pull it up. I got it somewhere around here.
According to Gina Mix from the Answers Research Journal, Homo lamini is not human.
They don't like its very basal shoulders and upper arms.
Don't Sanford and Roop say Homo naledi is another like artificial taxa or whatever? Same thing that they say about Sediba?
Usually they limit that to Sediba and Homo habilis.
Habilis,
okay. Sediba and Homo habilis. And the reason, of course, is very simple. It's because those are at least in my opinion, if you want to look for a very obvious mosaic of traits, those are the two that are going to really, really represent it. And you've got definitively bipedal, tool-using organisms with itty-bitty brains.
Yeah. And these mosaics is a great prediction of evolution from Evo Devo. The further back in time you go, the more similarly we should find closely related organisms. And it is confirmed by the fossil record and along with multiple independent dating methods that these are in fact old.
Well, just to bring it up too, this is corroborated with, this is very funny, pedigree studies of the great apes, of humans and the great apes. And you actually, by using pedigree studies, you actually end up matching with the fossil record slightly better than phylogenetic rates, which is proposed, of course, to be relatively-ish recent split of these lineages. But it's very funny to me that these guys are sitting around acting like Jensen is out here making excellent predictions, but you got human chromosome 2, the similarity between humans and the Pannons, and any number of specific genes that you can generate phylogenetic trees for, standing as just objectively obvious lines of evidence that humans nest within primates and catarrhines and hominoids, etc. But they really don't like that. They don't like that.
What did you say, Dan?
Has anyone found the table with the
So
different creationist papers? I have it somewhere, and for the life of me, I can't find the thing.
No, I've got it
I think
somewhere.
I have it bookmarked.
If you find it, pull it up. So let's see. I want to get Andrew in here. Andrew, what's your favorite creationist argument? And by favorite, we mean most fun.
Most fun.
Welcome.
Oh, by the way, thanks for having me on, and congratulations on over 1,000 subscribers. So let's see, most fun. Well, I guess since I'm a phylogenetics nerd, I'd have to go with just the common design arguments and stuff related to that, because it's just so easy to debunk, basically. So
That's kind of what I was. Yeah, I was thinking about saying that one, but I don't think that's not my favorite. But yeah, I have yet. So even if you want to say like, okay, creationism predicts a nesting pattern, right? You know, there should be common design means common. I forget what the 2-cent phrase that they use. Okay, even if you want to say that, right? Why do synonymous sites differ, right? Why do we have synonymous substitutions that are consistent across different taxa that replicate a tree in the same way that like is outlined by the fossil record, right?
I found it, I think. Oh, you already found it.
I got it. So
Okay.
two things. One, to jump on what Walker is saying, the argument is that even if you have special creation, right, and everything is similar, things are more similar via similar design. Since then, right, since creation, you've got a lot of changes that are going to happen. And many of those changes are going to be to synonymous sites that change the codon but don't change the amino acid. Well, those changes you would expect to be approximately random, right? Because they're not selection operating on those differences. And yet you can use those differences to reconstruct the nested hierarchy just like you could for non-synonymous sites. That doesn't make sense in the context of common. That's not just not a prediction of common design. That explicitly contradicts predictions from common design. But I found the table. Here's the table. So this is the great thing. Erica, you want to walk everyone through this? Because this is just a delight.
Oh, you love it. So we've got organisms here ranging from Homo erectus all the way to Australopithecus afarensis. So this is a very broad range of organisms with regard to brain case size, overall morphology, bipedal efficiency, and I think Rudolfensis is in here as well. I know. Oh God, when we get into the specific names, I wrote this down at some point because I wanted to actually go over it. But I know WT 1500, that's afarensis, I believe. ER 1813 is, because you got a 1510 cc's. So what they've got nicely here is your brain case size, and you've got a range of 1510 for ER 1813 all the way to a mind-boggling
510. Although that looks wrong. I feel like that should be 1510, and it's a typo.
No, because ER 1813, let's see. I think it might be Africanus. 1813.
It looks big, right?
No, they scaled them all up. Is the thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's
actually, well, it's habilis. Yeah, so you even got Homo habilis here as your numero uno, being considered by 6 out of 7 as ape, and 1 out of 7 as being human.
It's not see how the names are stacked up, because the couple of the 4th and 5th columns were multiple different times where they had this same agreement on.
Oh yeah, it's even more than that. You're right.
Yeah, so the middle bits are ones where they agreed. Bowden in this year, Menton and Taylor and Gish, they agreed these specimens are these things.
That's so funny.
So there were overlaps.
God, it's actually just incredible. Because the thing is, what should be abundantly obvious here is that you have absolutely no standardization with regard to brain case size or stature or any particular suite of morphologic characteristics that designate something as human versus something as ape. And of course, the reason is because humans are apes. We have all of the traits that make an ape an ape. So it has to be completely arbitrary by this absolutely bonkers baromenological method that no one has outlined. And I love that. In fact, if you go to the mammalian art kinds that AIG proposes, their reasoning for placing humans as outside of, and Walker's gonna love this too, of Pongaday is because they are so obviously unique. And no, they do not elaborate. That's what they say, and they leave it at that, which is incredibly robust scientifically, of course.
That's ridiculous.
Okay. Well,
they have a name for that. It's called cognitum or whatever, right? Where you basically just eyeball it and you say, "Yep, that's a created kind."
Yeah, and unfortunately, as Walker outlined quite nicely in the Proboscidean video, right? Like there isn't a genetic basis for this. There isn't a morphologic basis for this, and it's strictly out of necessity. I mean, kinds was only invented by the creationists in order to like cram all organisms onto the ark. If they didn't have that damn boat, they'd be swimming real pretty because they could just be like,
easy.
Everything's its own kind. Every species is its own kind, and that's what we're going to say. But you got to cram all those guys onto the boat, and that's going to include extinct species.
You do run into problems with very clear instances of evolution. Then, if you're going to buy into fixity,
that's fair.
That opens up another Pandora's box, right? But
Cetus is on the Ark Park.
It does, right? It gets it. Yeah. So that's my favorite. That's one. Well, I'll get to me in a second. But one of my favorite large scale arguments is I forget who it was, but somebody made the argument that all of the cetaceans are a created kind.
That's odd wise, I think.
It might have been maybe, and I really love that one because the amount of evolution that you are permitting. If you're going to say all the cetaceans, there was one pair on the ark, right? If you're going to go that far, like, fine, you agree with evolution. Then you don't have a problem with any of this.
Well, they got Pachycetus on the ark, did they not? Yeah, at AIG.
I actually do want to chime in here real quick.
Go.
We were talking earlier about the waiting time problem. That is completely self-contradictory. That completely refutes young Earth creationism, because if Stanford is right, then there is no way to get all these species evolving so quickly and reproduce biodiversity. Yeah. Erica just did a phenomenal video on the elephants and the
Walker scripted that
mathematically. What was that?
I said Walker's the one who did the most of the scripting for that. He did the legwork.
Yep. Thank you, Walker. But yeah, it's interesting that they want to make the entire order of the same kind when it just doesn't make any sense, especially given the fact that they have a gestational period of 2 years. It's just like, it's totally bonkers.
The fun goes even further because these are the same people who will be like, no. Theistic evolutionary creation has absolutely no place in biblical interpretation because you're forcing a certain interpretation on the text, and we don't like that. And then in the same breath, they'll be like, well, yeah, obviously they took, even though they didn't say it in the Bible, obviously they had to take plants and insects on the ark because we have plants and insects. So yeah, they didn't say that, but of course they did it because that's just common sense, right? And you're sitting around and you're like, all right, like, what is going on here? Where's Ashton Kutcher?
What are we doing?
Punk, it blows my mind that there can be such arrogance on that standpoint of my interpretation is the correct interpretation, and then to take so many grand liberties with said interpretation to cram it into this unbelievably tiny box of science. I can't make sense of it.
So I will be right back. But who are we up to? Who hadn't said their favorite creationist argument yet?
I think you, me, and Dakota.
Well, Walker, you're up, and I will be listening, but I will be right back.
Okay. Okay, so I was thinking about this. I think my top two favorites are, one was one that Andrew just said, the phylogenetic nesting problem. And my actual favorite, my number one favorite, I'm pretty sure is the same one as Dan, so I'll let him have that one.
He does. You guys both love that one to a very similar degree. I know that one well.
Oh, yeah, Walker, we have phylogenies.
Yeah, so I would say, oh crap, I just had one stuck in my head. Or not stuck in my head. I just had one in my head, and now I can't think of it. So can I pass it on to Dakota and then write it down when I think of it again?
Yes.
There was probably one I spent the most time on is C14 and Dinosaurs is a fun one because they have their set little list of these 24 samples that have positive C14 rates, and if you dig into them, you find all of them. The only ones that have collagen have a collagen ratio that is way too low to get a good collagen number, and since it's the apatite mix, so it's almost certainly contamination. And so the same bone dates 6,000 years apart from one end to the other. And my favorite one, and you can't ever trust these samples, but I think my favorite one is a bone which supposedly the same bone. They tested it in the early 90s, and they tested it in 2013, 2010-ish. And in that time, it went from 16,000 years old to 34,000 years old.
Oh, amazing.
It doubled in age. I mean, this is why I honestly don't think a lot of those samples that's supposed to have been the same bone. I don't think a lot of those samples are the same samples. I think they're so bad with their labeling because that they're accidentally grabbing completely different bones for a lot of these things.
Well, the thing is that there's been so much work done and literature done on these the potential for getting C14 essentially where it shouldn't be. Whether it's in diamonds or whatever, the classic one that they propose. And curiously, a lot of these samples are pulled from uranium-rich locations, which is very funny to me because it's so easy to vindicate this. Aside from the fact that if the soft tissue, the carbon in dinos, if that's your big argument, you should be able to walk up to any given dinosaur fossil if they're 6,000 years old and just pull gobs of carbon. You should be able to pull essentially intact DNA from these guys. But that's not what's happening. You can't get DNA from them. I mean, there's controversial reports about maybe some DNA from some of Schweitzer's
very small pieces.
Very small pieces, very degraded. And compare that to, we pulled the 15-year-old DNA from a Neanderthal, or no, was it Neanderthal? Actually, been a mammoth, pretty recently. It clocked as
Neanderthal. There's a bunch. We're getting better.
Yeah, there's a lot of ancient DNA. That's kind of something I really like.
Paleogenomics.
Yeah. So the oldest DNA we have is from a mammoth that's 1.2 million years old. That was
so cool.
Back in February.
That's so cool.
It is so cool. Yeah, but it was only a couple hundred base pairs.
And it's a cold adapted species too. Boy, how strange! Don't you think it's weird that we don't get the same amount of DNA from organisms all across the world that supposedly died in a global flood under the same conditions, but only in the ones that are suspiciously cold adapted from the most recent ice age? How strange!
Makes you think.
It's a real puzzler. All right, Dan, it's your turn. Walker thinks that you guys have the same one.
Yeah. Oh, I remember which one I was gonna say though.
Go for it.
Say the one.
Yeah, I will say out of Africa, and basically how they just. I remember me and Dan watched the Robert Carter video where he came up with 7 things that he thought could potentially explain it, and all of them contradicted something else within the young Earth model. It's really funny.
Awesome.
It was number 1 contradicted numbers 3 and 4, number 5 and number 6 were incompatible with each other. Yeah, and oh man, and I will say.
It's funny how many. I just think it's funny how many different creationist ideas contradict, the idea of created heterozygosity. Yeah, but specifically, they have this whole idea of created heterozygosity to make it some sort of unfalsifiable proposition, so that they can, sort of shift the burden of proof, right? But there's these other ideas like, okay, well, Neanderthals have a higher divergence time because they were early after the flood, so there was more diversity back then. Okay, so if we're talking about more diversity, like closer to the flood, that means that the alleles coalesced to like after that point, because a lot of those alleles were lost, right? So that contradicts created heterozygosity. The idea that there was some sort of sweep across all non-African populations after the flood or whatever, and that explains why we see out of Africa and all that stuff. That contradicts created heterozygosity. Like just everything, every creationist idea contradicts created heterozygosity. It's really fun.
Hey, sorry, Walker, I just want to sorry to interrupt just for a second, but
go for it. No,
Delia with saying AIG showed how it worked, God turned them plush. That was I missed that just for a minute, so I'm not sure exactly what that is in reference to. But
probably how Noah fed all the animals on the ark. He turned them into plushies. Yeah.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Give us the winner, Dan. What's the numeral?
Oh, okay. So while y'all were talking, I came up with some other good ones that I really love. So you all know what number one is going to be, so I'm going to save that for a minute. But Walker just reminded me of another one, top 5, we'll say. And it's the idea that Neanderthals the background on this problem for creationists is that the claim is that Neanderthals are just Homo sapiens because they can't finagle another species into the time frame necessary. So you've got Neanderthals being descended from Adam and Eve, and that doesn't work phylogenetically because Neanderthals are like off on their own, and then you've got all of Homo sapiens over here, right? So you got Homo sapiens, you got Neanderthals, and you got Denisovans over there too, and so the argument I love that tries to explain that, and the reason I love this is because it's based on the confusion, and this is not my number one, by the way, but I love this one. It's based on the confusion between the words diverse and divergent. Those are separate things. So you get the argument that Neanderthals, the reason they show all the morphological differences they do is that they're highly inbred, and they have all these genetic problems due to being inbred. But the reason they're off on their own branch is because they're hypermutating, and therefore they are highly divergent from the rest of humanity. And what I love about this is that being hypermutating necessarily means you have more heterozygosity because you just lots of mutations generating new alleles. And the definition of inbreeding, the way you detect inbreeding is how much homozygosity there is. Like they're literally the opposite.
Direct opposition. Incredible.
It's you cannot beat it because it's the creationist argument that explains Neanderthals is A and also not A.
Well,
those two
I would
things
say,
combined explain it.
Yeah, so I would say that's not necessarily the creationist argument. That one was a YouTube original because most creationists, the professionals, will not touch Neanderthals with a 10-foot stick. I was watching an interview between Nathaniel Jeanson and Ken Ham, right, about Neanderthals. And I wanted to
Why would you do that
flip a table. He did an interesting series, like a 20-part series or something about like anthropology, and it is interesting. But
I know the one you're talking about, Walker. This is the one where he did the absolute bonkers deal, where like a couple of different extremely old ethnic groups from Europe like came into being like 200 years ago or some shit like that. That was where he did that little number.
Well, so
very
that may have been in the same series, but what I was referring to is Nathaniel Jeanson. I don't know. Everyone likes to call it like Harvard geneticist Nathaniel Jeanson or whatever, right?
Harvard PhD.
Yeah.
He's not a geneticist. He's a developmental biologist, but his Harvard PhD, Nathaniel Jeanson.
But he mainly focuses on genetics, right?
His PhD is from Harvard. That makes him smaller.
In the 40-minute interview or whatever, he spent like 2 minutes talking about Neanderthal genetics, right? And he was like, first of all, or he said, there's no way that we can get DNA from these samples. It's all way too degraded, all that kind of stuff. And I was like, if you've read any of these papers, they have deamination graphs. You can see, like, if you have a 100 base pair segment or 100 base pair fragment, right? The first like 10 to 12 bases are super deaminated, and then the rest of the bases are usually pretty good. And so if you have like a 5 or 10 times coverage of Neanderthal sequence, it's like you're fine. Yeah, you can just match up the overlapping bits.
Shotgun it and line
right?
them up. And...
Yeah, exactly. And so Nathaniel Jeanson's just wrong on that, right? And then his other reason to say that like Neanderthals weren't modern humans, he was like, or Neanderthals were just modern humans, but they didn't have their own special genetics. He lined it up with some population growth curve that AIG made, and he said, if we include Neanderthal, or if we use the mutation rate that you would get from Neanderthal genetics, then this growth curve doesn't match up anymore. Therefore, we don't have Neanderthal genes. And I just wanted to flip a table or something. I'm like, dude, you made up this population growth curve. Of course it's not going to fit.
Oh, but also, you've got AIG going, here's a population growth curve, here's a hypothesis, data. And it's like, nope, doesn't count, throw it out. It's like, but guys, that's how you're supposed to test your stuff.
Yeah, it's. I mean, the name of the game with these dudes is it's all accommodation. That's it. It's you have to find some way to accommodate post hoc anything and everything that comes to the surface, which is why, and we're all on board. Yeah, we're with this. I know, but eventually, by the end of the decade, we'll see miracle here, miracle there. It's all good. That's what the Bible says. So miracles are totally fine, and they will abandon this idea that it is entirely scientific and supported empirically. It's going to be out the window.
So two things on that. One, you reminded me of another argument that I love, which I'll get to in just a second, but more to the point of exactly what you just said. I love how I'm pointing over here because that's where you are on my screen, but
I know
in the stream it's this way because it does that. I can never do it. My brain can't handle it.
Go like that.
To the point you were just making is Jeanson, if you read between the lines of what he wrote in Replacing Darwin, starts to go down that way with his created heterozygosity model, because he calls it created heterozygosity in natural processes. And he very specifically says that God is working to uphold his creation through these natural processes. So he's not saying we set it as, the first domino, and then there's futzing going on explicitly futzing going on along the way in his model, which is funny because he's now proposing a scientific model that explains all this stuff, but he's explicitly saying, like, he doesn't hide it. It's just I don't think enough people have like read his stuff firsthand to like catch it, but he explicitly says God is intervening.
Yeah, by the way, this is completely that completely contradicts genetic entropy. God is upholding his creation, but yet at the same time letting it
degrade. Yeah. Oh, so what was the other thing? What was the other thing we just had though? Oh, I had another one that was really good that is so funny, and I lost it. It was there, and then it's gone.
Yeah.
That's how I was as soon as you said my name.
I had one, and it was good. I don't know, EPA. Most of you are too young to get that joke, and it was in there. It was 2012. Okay, 2012 Republican presidential primary. Rick Perry says, I'm going to get rid of 3 departments: Department of Education, Department of Energy, and what's the third? And this was during a primary debate for president. And what's the third one? 45 seconds of trying to remember it, figured out, couldn't do it, and he ended with, "No, I can't get it. I don't remember. I'm sorry. Oops." And that was the end of it. And that was the end. It was amazing.
Cast my vote.
And to actually think that compared to modern GOP standards, he looks like a sane person.
Is not a lunatic. Compared to modern standards, is not a lunatic. Yeah, who'd have thought?
All right,
days of Rick Perry. Okay.
Number 1, I have to pee. So, because I already know what it's going to be, and
you know what it's going to be. You know what the answer is. It's genetic entropy. It's genetic entropy. It has to be genetic entropy. That is the best bad argument. It has to be genetic entropy. Everything is wrong about this argument. Every assumption is wrong. I've had arguments with other biologists who were telling me as we're talking about genetic entropy that no, you're wrong about how this is supposed to work because it makes so little sense, and they don't believe me. that the argument is so bad until I start quoting the book at them. And then they go, did he really write that? He really thinks that? Oh, it is that. Oh, that's why. And then they just stop caring because it's not worth thinking about for more than 30 seconds once you like get to how bad it is. And so that's my favorite is genetic entropy. There's nothing right about that argument. Every baseline like assumption of genetic entropy is wrong. Literally everything is wrong about it. It's a population genetics with no math, and there's nothing right about any assumption, and that's why I love it.
It makes me wonder how he got it so wrong.
You have to try.
Yeah, you definitely do. For certain ideas, like you definitely have to try. Like you have no conception of what selection is or what drift is. Like you don't need to. You have to simultaneously not understand either of those.
So just for everyone, if you haven't heard me rant about this before, just a brief overview. Genetic entropy requires that every mutation has a fixed fitness effect, and it's not context dependent. So, like, if you change environments, introduce a predator, introduce an antibiotic, doesn't matter. Every mutation has the same effect on your fitness. It requires that...
And that first point alone is so obviously and blatantly false that it is just invalidates the whole thing just right then and there, that one thing.
Whole thing. It requires that there is a fixed ratio of good to bad mutations, and that the vast majority are bad, so that like any given mutation that occurs, 99 point whatever percent is going to hurt you in some way. And that ratio remains constant even as mutations occur. One, that's wrong on its own merits. But two, it contradicts the first assumption, because if you have a fixed universe of fitness effects, once you start having mutations occur, you're changing the future frequencies, right? You're changing the balance.
Yeah.
So those two things are incompatible. It's like, oh, I love it. And then the third big one is that it requires no differences in relative fitness within members of a population. So it says there can be no selection at all. And in order for that to happen, it means everybody in the population needs to be close enough to equally fit that there can be no selection between them. And that is a bonkers assumption. There's no validity.
And it also is talking about how these mutations have a fixed fitness effect, but at the same time, they're entirely governed by drift, right? They have a fixed fitness effect, but there's no selection acting on it.
But there's no selection.
That's bonkers. If something has a selection coefficient, then it has selection, right? It's just if it's below, a certain mathematical equation, right?
Right. You can do
then it's primarily governed by drift. That's not to say that there is no fitness effect. By the fact that we're invoking a fitness effect, we're invoking selection. It's just talking about what the primary mechanism is. So saying that these mutations are invisible to selection is insane.
I love that. The rust on a car. Am I right?
It's just no. Your numbers and your math. It's just you're thinking too hard.
It's like
just rust on a car.
It's like rust on a car. And you know what? While we're at it, while we're comparing non-biological entities to the entirety of biology, how about those amphibious vehicles? It's amazing. You love to see it.
So, Dr. Dan, while we're on the subject of genetic entropy, I guess I did have a question for you, which was you brought up these fitness effects, for instance, and how selection doesn't act on it, which is obviously false. But I was reading up on something called Muller's ratchet recently, and I was wondering if recombination, which combats Muller's ratchet, can just as easily combat genetic entropy. Is that a plausible argument to make against these people?
Yeah, absolutely. Because for anyone who doesn't know, what Muller's ratchet is this idea that in non-recombining populations, which is sometimes shorthanded to asexual populations, but that's not quite right, because asexual populations do recombination, they just don't do sexual recombination. There's a lot of ways to do recombination. But the idea is that if you have good alleles linked, so they're physically on the same piece of DNA as bad alleles in whatever context you're in, if you can't separate those from each other, then you can't select out the bad mutations, right? Because you're selecting for the good ones, and you're going to bring the harmful ones along for the ride. And so Muller's ratchet is this concept that in those theoretical populations, and I say theoretical because such populations don't actually exist, but in that theoretical scenario, you have an infinite accumulation of harmful mutations because there's no mechanism to decouple them from the beneficial mutations. In any recombining, so the solution for that is sexual reproduction, right? You have two individuals, you mix and match, you get rid of the bad, and the mixing and matching is random, but then within the offspring that get rid of the bad stuff and keep the good stuff, those are the ones that are selected for. Now, that's true not just for sexual populations, but for any recombining population. So like bacteria, right? They're asexual, they do binary fission, but they also do a lot of trading DNA back and forth through various mechanisms. So they're still recombining, even if they're asexual.
Okay.
So Muller's ratchet is this idea of this accumulation, and the solution to it is recombination of some kind. Similarly, Sanford is proposing this endless accumulation of deleterious mutations, and what you can get is good mutations, the very rare ones. Sanford basically, he says that beneficial mutations virtually don't exist. He says virtually, but it's very small, approaching zero frequency. But to the extent that they do, doesn't matter because you're still stuck with all the bad ones. Well, same idea, recombination. You have a bunch of bad mutations, you have some neutral mutations, you have mostly neutral mutations, some bad, and then a few good. And you can have recombination and end up with individual genomes that have more of the good and fewer of the bad. And then those are the ones that are going to be selected for. They're going to have the most offspring. They're going to have the highest frequency in future generations. And it's one of Sanford's big things is selection cannot operate on any of these genotypes. And recombination is one of the ways around that, is that, well, yeah, you have some harmful mutations that occur. To the extent that they can be selected, they're going to be selected more strongly when they're together amplifying each other's effects, when you have positive epistasis on harmful alleles. And then the way you get them together is through recombination.
By any chance,
one more reason Sanford is wrong.
Yeah, by any chance, have any of the Brain Trust gang gone over this? Or does anyone know? Or like, is this some kind of argument I could use if they ever bring this up?
No, they throw out the buzzwords, but I don't think they've ever looked at it in depth.
You might get a Haldane's dilemma, but you're not going to get
You're going to get Haldane's dilemma. You're going to get Haldane's dilemma. Yeah, which is solved by things like neutral theory and recombination. Because Haldane's dilemma is from the 1940s. I should note Muller's ratchet and Haldane's dilemma are both basically derived from the neo-Darwinian synthesis, or the modern synthesis of evolution, which I wish they had picked a better name, because the modern synthesis was modern in 1945.
Yeah.
And in the year of our Lord 2021, it is not relevant to the field of evolutionary biology writ large. So you have these theoretical things, right? Muller's ratchet, Haldane's dilemma. We've solved those problems. They were from 80 years ago. We figured that stuff out.
Like other poorly named scientific kind of buzzwords before them, like mitochondrial Eve or mitochondrial Adam, they tend to cause many more problems than they.
The person that came up with that name.
I know.
Come on. Can we get a marketing executive in here, please?
I like to think that they sat around and they were like, what about mitochondrial Eve? And then the other person was like, damn, that might rile up the young Earth creationists. And then the other person, way back in the 80s, went, they're still young Earth creationists?
Right. And then the first person was like, yeah, you're right. Never mind.
Yeah. That's how I imagine it went down. And it uses my
But Andrew, going back to what we talked about before with the different approaches to this epitomizes my sniper approach to this, right? Like someone brings up Haldane's dilemma or the waiting time problem or Muller's ratchet. I'm just like, all that stuff is from before we knew about neutral theory and recombination. What do you want me to do? You're bringing up an argument from the 1930s. I don't know what to tell you.
So this was before we had the math for sexual recombination?
It was, when did we, well, so let's see, when did we have recombination? So Morgan figured out sex linkage. That was the early 1900s. And then when did we figure out the, like, actual recombination stuff? Because we didn't even have the structure of DNA until the 50s.
And recombination was found out in the early 1900s. Like map units were discovered, or not discovered.
Oh, who was the guy that did C. elegans linkage blocks? That was the big one.
I do not remember, but I just remember like this is like the 1920s that were doing recombination.
So you had recombination, but you didn't have neutral theory yet, and you didn't have anything about the molecular stuff of DNA. You didn't have the genetic code. You had none of that. So,
thanks. That helps.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, recombination and neutral theory like take care of that stuff. It's just like, I mean, and in particular, Muller. The idea with that was as an explanation for the evolution of sexual reproduction. Why do there's so many costs associated with sexual reproduction? People were looking around like, why does this exist? This doesn't make any sense. It's dangerous. It's cost intensive. Like the energy involved. Like, why is this a dominant thing in so many groups of organisms? And Muller's ratchet was like, maybe this is the reason. Right, we have this problem, and sexual reproduction solves the problem. So then people go, "Oh, Muller's ratchet is probably like, no, we started with the solution for that one, guys."
And just to be clear, this hasn't been observed in anything above really, really small populations of asexually reproducing things.
I mean, it's similar to Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium in that it's a theoretical thing that you can mathematically model, but it doesn't exist in natural populations, right?
That makes sense.
Given a set of conditions, you can model Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium, right? Given a set of conditions, you can model Muller's ratchet and show this accumulation. But then you go out in the real world and look at real populations, even things that are asexual, they have all these mechanisms to do it. Like my favorite is paramecium, where they do this super complicated thing called conjugation, where they have two different nuclei. One of them is diploid and one of them is bajillion ploid. It's like 100 something. It's hundreds of copies. And then the diploid one, they do meiosis and they mate and they swap and they fuse. But it's like a whole sexual cycle, but it's within the cells that happens. And then they get rid of the macronucleus, the big one, and then they make a whole new copy based on the recombined nucleus. It's bonkers. And why do they do that? Why in the world? It's Muller's ratchet, so you can get rid of those bad mutations. Like, that's the answer.
I think David accidentally exited by accident.
Oh, David left. We lost him, and now he's back. And also, we got another super chat. Vandalia, thank you. I appreciate your generosity, sir. My favorite argument is cars are man-made, so great. Yeah.
That's a winner. That is a winner.
Oh, sorry.
No. I was agreeing.
I was just going to say, despite the fact that cars show a low phylogenetic signal and don't form nested hierarchies.
You love to see it.
Yeah, thank you.
Our friend Andrew here is considering engaging in an upcoming debate. Are you not, Andrew?
Oh,
really?
I've kind of made that news. I don't know when it's going to happen, actually. I mean, I've kind of been asking, and like, I'm prepared just in case.
Our mutual friend, Monkey for Banana.
Oh, well, that's why would you do that? Well, if you need a forum, for what it's worth, if you need a forum, I'm happy to host.
Well, I do need someone to look over it and make sure it's all spotty and clean.
What's the topic?
I think here's the thing. Before we get to the topic, I just want to say, I think that people should not engage with other people that conduct themselves like 12-year-olds. That's just my personal position.
The entire Standing for Truth Brain Trust.
I wasn't going to name names.
Yeah,
yes.
Dan doesn't like to engage with people who he could break in half.
Oh yeah.
On a bad day.
In a physical
On a bad day.
Right, in a physical fight due to all his raw honey consumption and MMA.
That's how you know who's right, though, right? It's whoever can break the other person in half, they're automatically right. It's just like if you have a PhD from Harvard, someone with a PhD from Rutgers can never tell you that you're wrong. Those are the rules, and we
can't touch you. Yeah, we didn't make them.
Those are just
we didn't make them. It's not our fault that Raw Matthew is peak male physical. We didn't make the rules. We're merely passengers on this hype train.
All right, so we're coming up on 2 hours, so I am going to wrap this up. But Andrew, what's your topic?
So basically, kind of the thing I've been getting into lately is universal common ancestry supported by all the evidence.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
That's going to be
and my goal, hush hush secret, is basically to.
He doesn't watch my stuff.
Give all, to basically give all the jargon and how it actually works, and hope that he doesn't know how to respond. Basically, that's my goal.
I mean, it's going to be all jargon, right? That's just how it is. Even if the jargon is contradictory, like sentence one, sentence two, even if they're contradictory, if it's jargon, then that's how the argument works.
Do yourself a favor, Andrew, and watch the impromptu conversation that Dan had with Monkey for Banana on David Neff's channel.
Oh yeah, that was fun.
That is a premium example, rather, of how you ought to conduct yourself moving into this.
Yeah. By the way, speaking of that, Dr. Dan said if you on my channel probably tomorrow.
Yes.
Yeah.
That'll be fun. Well, I'm so excited.
Oh, so am I. Now, what time do you want to start? Because
let's talk offline because
yeah.
I wanna get back to what Andrew said, because there's one of my, can I tell you my favorite piece of evidence for universal common ancestry for cellular life? This is my absolute favorite piece of evidence for this, and it's this: every cellular organism uses the same genetic code. Uses the same genomic architecture, double-stranded DNA, very specific, like it's the double-stranded DNA and go from there, right? Now, we know that is evidence of universal common ancestry for cellular life because we have a counter case, the opposite, where we have a group of organisms that don't share a common ancestry. Viruses. And viruses have all sorts of genomic architectures. You've got single-stranded DNA, you've got double-stranded DNA, you've got double-stranded RNA, you've got positive-sense single-stranded RNA, you've got negative-sense single-stranded RNA, you've got retrotranscribing, you've got the group 7, which is weird, and I don't even remember what they are, but it's some weird DNA-RNA hybrid thing. It's weird. And so you have all these different genomic architectures among viruses. And we know that viruses don't share universal common ancestry. You can't make a phylogeny of all viruses. You can't do it. It's not possible. They are polyphyletic. But all cellular life is monophyletic. You can actually do the math and make a phylogeny of it, and the genomes all work the same way. It's all double-stranded DNA. If they were polyphyletic, why would that be the case? They don't have to be.
To add to that, because the inevitable response will be, well, it's common design and the viruses are the result of the fall. So your answer to that needs to be, then how come it was predicted by evolutionary theory? And how come it wasn't predicted by creationism? It was merely accommodated in 2016. Those are not the same things. Those are not on the same level.
And one more thing with that, if they say, well, that was because they share common design and viruses are from the fall. Thank you. This is a science debate. You're invoking a supernatural explanation. Thanks for playing. Bye-bye.
Yeah, and it's really weird because some things, from what I understand, have do the same thing, but have completely different amino acid sequences. So similar genes, same function, different amino acid sequence, huh?
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously these are all excellent points. These guys all know what they're talking about. It makes, just don't let him, because my imagining is that you're going to get well, the fall is actually scientific because genetic entropy, and that is going to be a can of worms.
Recent mitochondrial Eve, right? You'll get all that BS, yeah.
Yeah, and you don't want that. This individual will not want those cans of worms to be opened. But under desperation, they will be. So just be prepared to just headshot every single one of those. You need to be ready to just.
I guess the response.
And I think one of my personal favorites, the patriarchal drive thing. Patriarchal drive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think this is a good place to leave it, everybody, with some of our favorite terrible arguments. So thank you all for watching and joining us for this 1K celebration. Thank you to everybody that was here: Dakota, Erica, David, Andrew, Walker, and Maddie and Dapper that were here before. And did I miss anybody?
I don't think so.
I think I got everybody. So thank you all. And also for everyone, I just want to say before we wrap this up that this started as kind of a pandemic hobby for me. Our mutual friend, Mr. Wilford, was like, hey, some of us hang out on Zoom every now and then. You should come hang out with us. And then before I knew it, I was going on people's YouTube chats. And then someone said, you should have a YouTube channel. So I did. And then here we are like almost a year later. And this has been super fun. I've met some really fantastic people on the panel, in the chat. And so I appreciate all of you. Thank you all. And I will be back at some point to do more pseudoscience stuff. Dakota, I'm going to skip you because you don't have a YouTube channel. I don't know why not. That's unacceptable. But if you want to read Dakota stuff, you should go over to our Debate Evolution on Reddit, and you can read plenty of Dakota's material over there. Erica, I saw you had a compost today, but just tell everyone, what do you have coming?
I got some fun stuff coming. Let's see, I've got a video that should be coming out tomorrow, philosophy of biology stuff. Next week, I'm hoping to get a video out on the KPD extinction for its extinctions, and then I'm hoping to get something out. I want to do a bite-sized bus actually on carbon-14 and carbon dating. I think that one gets brought up all the time, and I actually got a lot of good feedback on the polystrate video because people were like, "Oh, this gets brought up all the time. This was a great go-to quick one of like, this is what you say when this is brought up." And so I'm hoping to get that out. And then the following week, I've got a big one. I'm coming for Gaia streaming services and after school for their Ancient Humans in Antarctica series, which makes me want to KMS, honestly. I hate it so much. It's horrible. And it actually does give in some senses, some creationists a run for their money in the sense that they do the same authority quote mining that pretty much anyone who's trying to lie to you does. And then down the line, I really want to do a video on intelligent design and the intelligent design movement because I really enjoyed reading The Devil and Dover, and I think that should be outlined at some point.
If you get a chance, I strongly recommend Monkey Girl as well. The third book that came out of the Dover trial, 40 Days and 40 Nights, take it or leave it. But Monkey Girl, the back half of it is very much like a courtroom drama, and the Behe scenes are especially well done. And,
beautiful.
Yeah. Which, if you've read the transcript of any of the Dover trial, you know that Michael Behe got raked over the coals a little bit when he was on the stand. So, yeah. I'm really excited. I've been dreaming this one up for a while because I want to really put my all into it and get a lot of the I'm going to be ripping from the Nova documentary a lot. But yeah, I think that's it. Next 2 weeks are going to be really cool. I'm excited. Thank you, David. We're going to talk viruses and stuff tomorrow, I think. And then what else do you have coming down the pike?
So I have my friend Brenton Meeky. He's an opera singer and a very good friend of mine. He is going to be on my channel on Saturday. We're going to have a chat about upcoming music. And I'm a music minor and a biology major, so I am working on some music stuff. I am also working on a video on the mechanisms of evolution, natural selection, and speciation. That is something to look forward to. And I am really looking forward to my conversation with Dr. Dan. It's going to be a lot of fun. So come over to my channel tomorrow.
We're just gonna nerd out. I'm so excited to just like.
Oh yeah,
I'm
same
sorry,
here.
David. I'm really sorry. We're really gonna. It's gonna.
Yeah,
be
we're definitely gonna be nerding out for a while. That's
I'm
for sure.
excited, but I'm so sorry, everybody. Andrew, you potentially have a debate coming. Anything else on the horizon?
I'm gonna keep going, spying on other channels, and picking out new arguments, I guess, is all I'm gonna say.
I'll just say that you don't have to take. I mean, God bless you, but you don't have to take anybody's shit. Like, you should just know that.
Thanks. That means a lot.
You should just not. You don't have to.
There's a lot of no thoughts, head empty, like abuse coming your way from some of those channels, and
yeah,
right.
You do not have to put up with that stuff, man. You can just be like, out of here. And Walker, you just put out a fantastic video on human evolution. I recommend that everybody go and watch that. It was super. I learned a ton about the most up-to-date stuff on Homo sapiens and Neanderthals and Denisovans and recent findings in admixture between the different lineages. Super fascinating. What's on deck for down the road?
Yeah, so I started work on. Well, so I have sort of two projects, I guess, in the works. I don't know when they'll come out, hopefully before the end of the summer. But one of them is an idea about going over the history of cladistic taxonomy and using the idea of humans being fish to explain morphological taxonomy and stuff. And then sometime in the far future, there'll be a sequel to it using, so basically I'm monkey, to explain phylogenetics and like phylogenetic methods.
If
and then
you ever do come up with that, definitely link it to me. I check that out.
And then the other thing that I want to do eventually, it shouldn't take very long, is I kind of want to do a reading of the In Light of Evolution essay by Theodosius Dobzhansky.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think, obviously Dobzhansky has a lot of very nice zingers. And I also think he was a Eastern Orthodox Christian. I think in this whole debate about creation versus evolution and stuff, I think the theistic evolutionists get sort of ignored a lot.
Yeah.
And it sort of lets the young Earth creationists frame this argument as Christians versus atheists or something like that. When it's not that at all. It's science versus pseudoscience. So I think hearing the voice of someone who is a theistic evolutionist or somewhere leaning in that direction is a kind of important take on it. So those are my two upcoming things.
Nice.
That sounds fantastic, and I'm really looking forward to that one. That sounds great. Until this minute, until you said that, that would never have been on my radar as something I would love to comb it, really go through with a fine-tooth comb. But that sounds fascinating, and I would love to dive into that. So I am really looking forward to that one from you. And with that, everybody, what do I have coming up? I don't have anything. So I've got a bunch of things where I need to schedule people that I've got email chains of yeah, great, we'll schedule something next month. And then I just need to actually reach out to people and schedule things. So I have people that I want to talk to soon. Kevin Anderson, I've been going back and forth with him. He had a lab move, and then the semester got kind of a little ahead of me. So I gotta talk to him, and we gotta set up a time to talk about stuff. That's Dr. Kevin Anderson, Young Earth biochemist. I want to talk to Sal again soon. I want to talk to James Carter again soon. I also, after my chat with Michael Behe a few months back, we left it as that was super cool. Let's do that again sometime. So I'm going to talk to him again. But again, I have to have time to set this stuff up. But I'll be starting a summer class next week. So we'll see how much time there is for any of this stuff. But and then I'm going to try to keep the once a week doing something. Although I may change. I think what's going to happen is I'm going to change my night to Mondays. Seems to be a little more open. I don't have to thread the needle so much. So we'll see what happens. I don't know. You all know my schedule is sporadic, so just I appreciate all of you watching and participating to whatever extent you can when I happen to surface on YouTube. And with that, I'm going to call it a night. So thank you, everybody, and I will see you soon. Bye.
Bye.